Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing climate change, abrupt climate change, and things adjacent. And I am going to continue bringing you extreme weather headlines and the reaction to extreme weather events and climate change headlines in general. There are so many. I could not even cover them in the last video, so I'm going to continue where I left off. This is from The Guardian. This is from Saturday, June 29th. Heatwave cooks mussels in their shells on California shore. Temperatures lead to what appears to be largest local die-off in 15 years, raising fears for broader ecosystem. This is by Susie Cagle. In all her years working at Bodega Bay, the Marine Reserve Research Coordinator Jackie Soanes has never seen anything like it. Scores of dead mussels on the rocks. Their shells gaping and scorched, their meats thoroughly cooked. A record-breaking June heat wave apparently caused the largest die-off of mussels in at least 15 years at Bodega Head, a small headland on the northern California Bay. And Soanes received reports from other researchers of similar mass mussel deaths at various beaches across roughly 140 miles of coastline. While the people who flocked to the Pacific to enjoy a rare 80 Fahrenheit beach day soaked up the sun, so did the mussel beds, where the rock-bound mollusks could have experienced temperatures above 100 Fahrenheit at low tide, literally roasting in their shells. Soanes expects the die-off to affect the rest of the seashore ecosystem. Mussels are known as a foundation species. The equivalent are the trees in a forest. They provide shelter and habitat for a lot of animals. So when you impact the core habitat, it ripples throughout the rest of the system, said Soanes. I would expect that this actually impacted the entire region. It's just that you would have to have people out there to document it to know, said Soanes. Years of research into ocean health has focused on rising water temperatures and the effects of acidification on marine life. Kelp and coral are suffering in warmer waters, starfish are melting, and shellfish are breaking down, but there is less data on the impacts of these kinds of one-off extreme weather events in the open coastal air. The Northeastern University marine ecologist Brian Helmuth designed a robot mussel that can measure and log temperatures as the animal would experience them. Wow. We no longer think of climate change in the future. I would like a robot mussel. They're so cute. We no longer think of climate change in the future when we do this kind of forecasting work, Helmuth told Bay Nature, which first reported the cooked mussels phenomenon. It's how do you prepare for it now? The University of British Columbia biologist Christopher Harley documented a similar event at Bodega Head in 2004, but he and Soanes believe this one was probably bigger. These events are definitely becoming more frequent and more severe, said Harley, citing diminishing mussel beds along the west coast. Up to British Columbia, mussels are one of the canaries in the coal mine for climate change. Only this canary provides food and habitat for hundreds of other species. Moving on to more. But wait, there's more. Extreme weather events. 10-year-old boy, one of three, struck by lightning in Hawaii, thankful to be alive. So when you hear the phrase struck by lightning, it's, it usually connotes something that's very, very rare or something that's, almost impossible to have happen. And yet 3 people get struck by lightning. So getting, in the near future, getting struck by lightning might be one of those things that isn't so rare. A 10-year-old boy who was struck by lightning in Hawaii says he is lucky to have survived. 5th grader Nazia Ki Lucy was among 3 people hit by lightning as rare, severe weather and record-shattering rainfall hit the island of Oahu Tuesday night. I'm really thankful that I'm still alive, Nazia told Hawaii News Now. It felt like I got one big, huge shot from a gun in my hand. The other 2 people were struck on the tarmac at Honolulu International Airport. They were transported to the hospital in serious condition. Only 20 to 30 thunderstorms hit Hawaii each year, according to the Western Regional Climate Center, and are more likely in winter than summer. They're even more rare in the lower elevations of the state, like Honolulu, where thunderstorms typically happen less than 10 times a year. And And to follow that up, extraordinary record-crushing rainstorm deluges Honolulu. Tuesday's rainfall exceeded the previous daily record by a factor of 30. Aside from a passing shower, rainfall of any consequence is rare in Hawaii's capital in the summer months. Yet on Tuesday, a torrent of historic proportions dumped 4.2 inches of rain on Honolulu. Perhaps I need more coffee because I can't seem to pronounce any of the words I'm reading. 4.2 inches of rain on Honolulu, a record for the month of June. In a single June day, Honolulu received as much rain as it normally would in 16 June months. The rainfall was 30 times the prior record of 0.14 inches for June 25th, set in 1994. It ranked among the top 25 heaviest daily rain events for any month of the year, and the only one occurring outside of October to April rainy season. The downpours triggered flash flood warnings for the entire island of Oahu. The rain originated from an unusual low-pressure system in the region, much more common in the heart of the winter wet season. The weather system was preceded by several days of hot and humid weather that was also out of character for the Hawaiian Islands, with temperatures hitting at least 90 on 12 of the 14 days in Honolulu. So if you have ever been to Hawaii or know anybody that lives there, 90 degrees is really rare. Really rare. I mean, if you ever have spent like a week or two in Hawaii, the weather just does not change. It stays, whatever, between, the temperature of 70 and 80 degrees, and it just barely fluctuates. It is very humid there, and it can be, warm because of the humidity, but like 90 degrees is a rarity. Honolulu broke daily record highs on 9 of the first 18 days in June. Dew points, a measure of humidity, swelled into the stifling mid-70s. Trade winds typically keep island weather comfortable for about 80% of the year, with dew points rarely climbing out of the 60s. Typically, summers in Hawaii are quite dry in leeward and lowland areas. The dry season runs from May until sometime in October. So again, unusual weather. And here we go. This is from June 18th from EcoWatch. Greenland temps soar 40 degrees above normal, record melting of ice sheet. The annual Arctic thaw has kicked off with record-setting ice melt and sea ice loss that is several weeks ahead of schedule, scientists said, as New York Times reported. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, there is open water in areas north of Alaska where it is rarely, if ever, seen, the Washington Post reported. The accelerated ice melt in Greenland was caused by an unusual weather pattern where high-pressure air lingered, bringing warm air up from the south, which pushed the mercury 40 degrees Fahrenheit above normal temperatures. Add to that continuously cloudless skies and snowfall that is well below normal, and the conditions were ripe for melting across most of the ice sheet. Last week, Greenland lost 2 billion tons of ice, or about 45% of the surface, in just one day. Measuring about 270,000 square miles, the ice melt was slightly larger than Texas, said Marco Tedesco, a geophysicist at Columbia University's Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory, according to the New York Times. While the high temperatures set a record early date for such widespread melting, there was slightly greater melting in 2012, but a bit later in June that year, high pressure returned during the summer months, which caused record ice sheet melt, and Greenland lost 200 billion tons of ice that summer. The melting is big and early, said Jason Box, a climatologist at the Geological Survey of Denmark and Greenland, as the Washington Post reported in May. Box predicted that 2019 would be a big melt year for Greenland. Not good news if we are watching what's happening in the Arctic. Moving on. So as most people have heard, New York City declared a climate emergency. The first U.S. city with more than 1 million residents to do so. So, I don't know about that. Was it the UK, the entire UK that declared climate emergency, or did the city of London declare a climate emergency? Because they definitely have more than 1 million residents, so I'm confused about that. But anyways, This is from June 27th. New York City officials declared a climate emergency in an effort to mobilize local and national responses to stall global warming. It's the largest city in the U.S. with over 8.62 million inhabitants. The New York City Council passed the legislation Wednesday calling for an immediate response to the global climate crisis. The bill referenced several reports on the state of global warming and its impact, imparting that extreme weather events brought about by rising temperatures demonstrates that the planet is too hot to be a safe environment. The planet is too hot to be a safe environment. The United States of America has disproportionately contributed to the climate emergency and has repeatedly obstructed global efforts to transition toward a green economy. Ding, ding, ding. And thus bears an extraordinary responsibility to rapidly address these existential threats. Absolutely on the money. Climate emergency declarations typically don't contain policy measures on how to slow climate change, but function as symbols of municipalities' commitment to fighting it with future legislation. More than 670 governments in 15 countries have declared climate emergencies, according to data from Innovation for Cool Earth Forum. But only 18 of those local governments, not including New York, are in the U.S., such as San Francisco and Hoboken, New Jersey. Los Angeles hasn't formally declared an emergency, but is included in the forum's count for initiatives that city council members have made to combat climate change. New York's declaration is significant for the sheer scope of its constituency. The next largest council to make the statement counts just under 1 million inhabitants. In May, the UK became the first national government to declare a climate emergency. Okay. There is also a video from Extinction Rebellion which has a bunch of the testimonies in the city council meeting around the declaring a climate emergency. I'm going to link that also below. It's a good video. Suggest you watch it. So I'm going to finish up with kind of some weird, strange articles. Michael Bloomberg promises $500 million to help end coal. So, Michael Bloomberg is an extremely rich person, but is concerned about climate change. And he's wants to give away a lot of money to help do that. Michael Bloomberg, a former mayor of New York City, said on Friday he would donate $500 million to a new campaign to close every coal-fired power plant in the United States and halt the growth of natural gas. The new campaign, called Beyond Carbon, is designed to help eliminate coal by focusing on state and local governments. The effort will bypass Washington, where Mr. Bloomberg has said national action appears unlikely because of a divided Congress and a president who denies the established science of climate change. So this is good. This is a good thing. I think the more people with power and influence and dollars who can circumvent government, that's the way to go, because they're going to move really, really slowly. We're in a race against time with climate change, and yet there is virtually no hope of bold federal action on this issue for at least another 2 years, Mr. Bloomberg said in a statement for the announcement, which he made in a commencement address at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Mother Nature is not waiting on our political calendar, and neither can we. The campaign will be based on the need to avoid the most dangerous effects of climate change, but will also emphasize the economic benefits of switching to clean energy. So, obviously a business person is going to have some kind of business interest, obviously, and is going to want business as usual to continue and, switch to clean energy so that we can all continue to do the horrible things that we're doing. And there's a big problem with that, of course. And it would be nice if he was talking, nice if he threw some money at taking on the global, aerosol masking effect. It would be nice if he threw some money at, educating people around climate change. It would also be nice if these business people could talk about the fact that, most of the businesses they're involved in are responsible for climate change and killing the planet, even if you're not in the fossil fuel industry. They talk about natural gas not being a good a good alternative. Natural gas is no longer a transitional fuel, Mrs. Harbert said, but foundational in our energy landscape. I love the wording that they use. It's just so ridiculous. Anyways, I'm going to link this below and move on. And lastly, finishing with this weirdness. So this is, what some people think of as adaptation to climate change. This is a mayor in Alaska says he's trying to encourage climate change adaptation through economy and infrastructure. And this is a little bit laughable, but this is Mayor Richard Beneville from Nome, Alaska, said in an interview that aired Monday on Rising, he's working to encourage the state to adapt to climate change through changes in its infrastructure and economy. My mission, if you want to call it such, is to make people aware. Well, that's great. To make the American public aware of what is happening and how it affects the United States, he continued. It affects us in absolutely every way, politically, economically, and it affects everything. And it's very exciting. It's scary, but it's also very exciting. Okay, this guy's a little bit of a weirdo. I work with a group, Intercontinental Railroad, and they want to build a railroad spur from Canada up to the Seward Peninsula and then a tunnel under the Bering Strait to connect with the Trans-Siberian Railroad. That's thinking outside of the box. That's what we need to continue to do. That's not what we need to continue to do. So this guy is like just a complete, total industrial capitalist, industrial civilization, yay. Nome is located on the southern portion of the Seward Peninsula on the Norton Sound of the Bering Sea. Benneville is promoting an infrastructure project for the state's northernmost deep water port, which he said would help diversify Alaska's economy. So this is not the way to adapt to climate change. This is just an example of not the way. No. And we might include Michael Bloomberg's proposition as a no too. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. We need a lot more education around the subject. We really need a lot of. We need a lot more people, scientists, educators, communicators to bring some real honesty around this to people. More. We need it more than ever, and we need it really quickly. Because people are getting the wrong ideas about climate change or what it means to, adapt to climate change or what it really means to do something about climate change. And I was just listening to a progressive channel that was citing a poll in which majority of Democrats thought that Joe Biden was the best person to tackle climate change. Which is completely, just misinformed on all levels. Joe Biden is not the person who's going to most likely tackle climate change. Not in the slightest. Joe Biden is a corporate Democrat. He's a right-wing Democrat. He's a right-winger. He, may say that he cares about climate change. He may talk about climate change. But the interests that he is beholden to will not allow him to do anything substantial on climate change, and that's just the truth. He won't be able to do it. He's not the guy. So there's a lot of Americans out there, a lot of Democrats out there who are completely misinformed about this. So please understand you're getting the wrong information. So you need to get your information from somewhere else. If it's from the mainstream media, you're probably getting the wrong information, especially if you're getting it from television. You're just not getting the right information. You're getting very surfacey information, and that's not really helpful because there are people out there with correct, more substantial information. They're not in the mainstream media. They're most likely on YouTube or on alternative news sites or blogs or what have you. You need to do some research and do some reading and, just expand your mind a little more around this. That's my suggestions, if you're a Democrat that thinks that Joe Biden is going to help the environment. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. Until next time, peace.